Hi all, and welcome to another Watercolor Wednesday episode. Today we're going to be painting another lake reflection painting, and the first thing you want to do is paint your gradient background. So because we're going to have the water reflecting the top portion or what's above the horizon, you want to make sure that you're mirroring your background gradient. So I started off with a pale tone in the center, expanded into yellow, and then further expanded and blended into blue on both sides of your piece of paper, or rather both the top and the bottom. You want to apply 2 to 3 layers until you're happy with the opacity. This is my third layer. You can ignore those little pink wisps. I will explain what those are in just a moment, but I just wasn't happy with the opacity of the previous layer, which is why I'm painting over the pink wisps. While that final layer is still wet, and this is really important, you want to take some pink watercolor and paint these pink wisps originating from the horizon line all the way to the top of the piece of paper, and you can kind of paint them at an angle like I did here, but again I just want to stress that that final layer does have to be wet in order to let that paint sort of spread out and blend into the surrounding colors rather than looking really harsh, which is what it would look like if you just sort of painted it once the final layer had dried. Once you are happy with that and it has completely dried, you want to pencil in a horizon line, which you didn't see me do, but it's just simply drawing a horizon line with a pencil in the center. And I opted to paint some background mountains before I painted sort of the main horizon tree line, basically. So I painted those two little mountains there, and once they had dried, I painted over them just the bottom portion with a darker horizon line, and then on the other end I opted for some trees. Once those have dried, you can paint in some other details. So the water was looking a little bit bare to me, so I decided to paint in some rocks. So here you can see me painting on rocks, and if you're also going to paint on rocks, then just make sure that you make the ones at the bottom of the piece of paper a little bit bigger, and the ones that are closer to the horizon line smaller, because we want them to look like they're farther away from the viewer. Once your rocks have dried, you can paint in some shadows originating from the horizon line. So here I'm just painting some reflections coming from the trees and the forested area and the little mountains that I painted, and you can do the same to make, mostly I just did it because the water was looking a little bit plain and I had already painted the rocks, so I couldn't add any details across the entire water, and so you just gotta make do sometimes, you know? And again, the right side was looking bare, so I added a few trees, some pine trees in that right corner. I actually put out a pine tree tutorial, which I encourage you to check out if you ever have difficulty painting trees. I go over 4 types of easy pine trees that you can paint in watercolor. I also finally just decided to add some pink wisp reflections on the water, sort of trying to go around the other details. I encourage you to do that part before the rocks and the trees if you can. I just decided to add it after because the water was still looking a little bit bare to me. Finally, I added some tree branches coming from the top of the piece of paper just to add a little bit more detail. You can definitely omit this part, or you can add more pine trees. It's really free for experimentation, whatever you prefer and what you like painting. I really love to paint tree branches, so whenever my painting is missing a little bit of detail and it's a nature painting, I always try to add tree branches somewhere because they really complete the painting. Once it has dried, you can peel off the borders of your piece of paper, the tape that you've taped the borders with, and you're left with a beautiful painting. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and check out my previous videos.